Good morning and welcome to another weekly video, the way that we connect with some of you who will watch these. I get up early every Thursday morning, come on in here, build a wine bar menu, kind of get my head into what we're going to be doing this weekend, and then try to relate it to you in a video. So here we are, we're doing it again. And please remind me to explain why I've got this bottle sideways right now. We'll be getting to that in a minute, but why, in fact, is this horizontally positioned? Let's say first a very, very happy birthday to our younger daughter, Mary. Younger meaning she turns, oh man, let me get this right. Is she going to be 29 years old? My God, I have a 29-year-old. That would be shocking unless I also remembered that I have someone about to turn 33-year-old as my other daughter, and that'll happen in June. That's where that went. At any rate, happy birthday, Mary, and good luck with your pop-up in the Noe Valley in San Francisco as you show your beautiful blooms and pastries at Stephen Moore Home in San Francisco, the Noe Valley section of it. Very beautiful area. 2 blocks down the street from where their weekly farmers market will be happening. You can get in line and hopefully score some of Mary's beautiful fresh-baked croissants and otherwise that she has devised all on her own. Pretty amazing woman who has learned how to transcend that rule of ours, the rule for all of us who bake, follow the rules. Well, she went to the CIA and learned how to create recipes of her own, and what she comes up with is pretty darn amazing. So gorgeous croissants, but interesting renderings thereof. So anyway, if you want, go see her, I think between 10 and 1 o'clock at Stephen Moore Home, right out there on the sidewalk outside of that home furnishing store. Can't remember the name of the street, but that should be enough for you to use. And I know that's a long way away, Noe Valley, but she'll be back in the East Bay pretty soon here. At any rate, this is just our shout out, our happy birthday from Mom and I to you, Mary. Happy birthday and good luck on Saturday. Why is this bottle sideways? I have no idea. But, well, you don't, I do. We'll get to that. You know, what I'm going to do this time around is not necessarily relate to you what we have as an upcoming event, because most of our upcoming events are private. I'm going to be appearing in backyards and up here on the mezzanine for private groups over the next month. I'm sure we'll cook up something. Actually, there are a few things on the calendar that to which we can invite you, the casual observer, but we are emphasizing a lot of, or committing ourselves to a lot of events upstairs and abroad over the month of May. And I also dash off for one weekend to taste, let's say maybe 150 wines. There'll be 400 of them open, and I'll try as many as I can. That'll be in Winchester, Virginia. Yes, once again, I finally get to go back to one of my favorite tastings of the year, where an importer invites me to visit his warehouse and say hello to many, many of his producers from at least 15 different countries in the world. And believe me, it's good to have a shuttle bus back to the hotel after something like that. But I'm going to do this for you. I have before for perhaps 15 or so visits to that one warehouse, and we're going to find some good data for you. We always do. Some of that data may in fact be in the list of wines I'm about to describe. So let's tell you about some wines that we're doing on our wine bar menu. That's the gist of this week's video. And yet, I would love for you to think about these as wines that you can also enjoy at home, all right? Not all of you do the Wine Steward as a wine bar destination. You can and should, but if you have another way of enjoying wine, why don't you just take this as a description of 5, 6, 10, 11 beautiful wines that you can enjoy at home or with your friends, wherever. Sparkling wine. We do a sparkling wine every week on the menu, and it would be nice for you to see the front label, so let's do this. Graham Beck. We are so glad to have Graham Beck back in the house. I, in fact, am going to celebrate the return of Graham Beck right now, right in front of you. Sparkling wine. We say that when it is not from Champagne. It's kind of the most appropriate way to represent sparkling wine if it's not made in Champagne. We don't call it Champagne if it ain't made there, right? All right, so South Africa, like, what good can come from there? Maybe you've had some funky South African wines that are, in fact, fantastic ones. And we want you to know the Graham Beck producer as the most reliable producer of very affordable sparkling wine. Sparkling wine, I know that sounds boring. They have their own fancy name for it. It's Cap Classique. That's kind of like, that means sparkling wine from South Africa. Graham Beck is leading the way, leading the charge with fantastic stuff from down there. Fantastic for the money too. This is 100% Chardonnay and therefore a Blanc de Blanc. It's vintage, it's 2017 single vintage. It's a couple bucks up from their regular stuff, which we also just brought in. Their Brut is beautiful, but this is a Blanc de Blanc Brut that is complex. I promise you that for under $30, you will not find a more complex, more interesting, more champagne-like sparkling wine outside of Champagne. God, that's good. That is really good. That's really good. It's crisp, it's nervy, but it also has length. I can still taste it. That's a good thing if you like what you're tasting. You gotta have some of this. Graham Beck, 2017 Blanc de Blanc. Sorry, Champagne, we're gonna give you a week off. All right, let's now take you to the White Flight, or let's just call it whites you can enjoy at home. If you don't want to come to the wine bar, fine. Come into the Wine Steward, grab a bottle of any of these. We're so proud and pleased and happy and gleeful and all that to have this. Actually, gleeful would be a good word, because this wine is bottled glee, G-L-E-E, you could say. This sometimes just, this makes often just, I'll be sitting in the office, bottle of this having been opened and the cork stuck back in, and then I hear a pop 20 minutes later. This cork has a way of just flying back out. Why? Because this is a frizzante. Frizzante sort of implies, well, it does imply half bubbly. It's the Italian word for white wines, well, actually any red or white wine that happens to have a sparkle to it, but less pressure, less bubbly than a wine that would require thicker glass because of the pressure and a wired on cork. You've seen those, what we use for champagne and so on. And yet frizzante means it's a little bit of a tingle, not like over the top sparkling, but you can even see it right there, see the fizz. This is brilliant. This is from our friend Tom Kelly, Small Vineyards Imports, the guy who visits once or twice a year to show you good Italian wines. There are, we made a promise to Tom that it's not just about once or twice a year. It's about representing your product all year long on the shelf. We can't do that with everything he brings over. Otherwise, we'd be saying no to so many others. But this is a fixture. This is a wine that should be represented at the Wine Steward day in, day out. If we fail in that regard, please come upstairs and kick my ass, all right? We want to have this frizzante for you all the time. Many of you love it. Some of you order it by the entire case. And just saying, it's back in and it's on the wine bar menu. It's made entirely of a grape called Garganega, which kind of sounds like one of those science fiction monster movie guys who perhaps defeated Godzilla with the help of Rodan and Monster X or Zero or whatever his name was. But it's in fact the name of a grape, Garganega. This is a producer of Soave. They cannot call this Soave because, at least in the books right now, there is no rule for Soave actually being frizzante. Soave must be a still white. Soave made of Garganega, sometimes some Trebbiano in there too. 100% Garganega, could be called Soave, can't be, and it is from Verona, land of Romeo and Juliet. And after all that, let's just shut up and enjoy the beautiful, gleeful effervescence of this. No one will argue with this. Some people will geek out, some people will recognize the complexity, the goodness of this wine, and other people just love the fizz. It's all right. We love both of you. All right, I'm going to put this cork back in and anticipate it popping back out in about 20 minutes. It has a way of doing that. Let's tell you about white number 2 on the flight. And here we are. Now we can explain why this bottle was sideways. It is simply because I was downstairs this morning as the sun was coming up. It must have been about 6:30, 6:45 or so. And I'm perusing the aisles of the Wine Steward, deciding what we want to have as a white wine flight on the wine bar menu. And I saw this and I pulled it from the rack. They were up here and I'm looking and realizing, wait a minute, there's a little bit of stuff in this bottle. And then I looked at the rest of them and I recognized that just along the bottom, there's just a little bit of sediment. In a white wine, just a little bit of like yeasty looking sediment. And that's in fact what it is. dead yeast cells, more romantically called lees, exist in this wine because it was not filtered, and they deliberately left some of that in there. You could even clean up a white wine in other ways without filtration. Filtration kind of strips a wine. It is blamed by many winemakers for like removing some of the good stuff. And so really good winemakers who make small amounts of wine will avoid filtration. There's other things they can do, however. They can let all that stuff finally settle out and then move very carefully the wine to another vessel, leaving the scum behind. I know let's call them lees. And then you end up with a nice clear white wine in a bottle. Well, in this case, they actually want you to see a little bit of that stuff on the bottom as a visual indicator, a visual promise of they're not filtering the wine. And that the presence of that stuff, in my opinion, kind of helps the wine last a little bit longer. And it also gives a little more mouthfeel, a little more complexity of texture. So what the hell are we talking about? We're talking about a wine not from Europe, but from Chile, the Maule Valley of Chile. We're not talking about a grape variety you've necessarily heard of. This is called Pais. You may have heard of the Mission grape. This is Chile's name for the Mission grape. Mission grape planted all over California, probably the first Vitis vinifera grape to be planted in California by the Mission Fathers. And it's a red grape. And in fact, what they found down here was a mutation all of a sudden, growing up a bunch of trees. Yeah, there were, obviously they were planted by somebody in bygone days, maybe a century ago, and kind of forgotten. And this is Pais Blanco. Pais, until like 6 months ago, the wine steward was not aware that there was a white mutation. And it took me right back to the days in the 1990s when I worked at Livermore Valley Cellars. And there was one vine near the tasting room in Beverly's Rose Garden, a golden chasselas, we call it that. The real name is Palomino. There was a head prune vine there. One, kind of like, even though there are a bunch of them down out in the field, this was all by itself isolated, beautiful head pruned, old, like 80-year-old white grape vine. And head pruning means it kind of looks like a hand sticking out of the soil and surrounded by Beverly's rose bushes. And then nearby was a spruce or some kind of a fir tree that rose to maybe 60, 80 feet in height. And what you would see all of a sudden at harvest time were a bunch of grapes hanging off of that, like almost like Christmas tree ornaments hanging off of that tree. And in fact, a little sucker had left that vine, traveled along the ground unseen through the weeds, and crawled up there, and annually was putting a crop up on that tree. You know what? The same thing has happened here, where you've got these vines that have used the local trees as trellising. Ridiculous. And the look is rather remarkable and unkept. And what is happening with these Pais grapes is they're being harvested by guys who are climbing 15-foot tall ladders, and in order to basically get up against these trees and remove grapes that have nothing to do with the trees except as trellises. I was often tempted to climb up that tree and pick the Palomino grapes, but Chris did in fact have 15 and 20-foot tall ladders, but they were kept together mainly by duct tape and thumbtacks, and I wasn't going to dare that. At any rate, there were enough grapes to pick out in the vineyard anyway. But Palomino, that's my little story about Livermore Valley Cellars for the day. Let's get to this wine because it's really, really cool. Pais Blanco. Now, that's all novelty. That's all fun. That's a good story. Is the wine good? When I opened this bottle this morning, I recognized something called reduction, a byproduct or a product of hydrogen sulfide. And that is kind of a not so attractive, unless you know what it is, kind of a rotten egg smell. It's gone now. I've waved it out. Hydrogen sulfide in certain amounts is actually a good thing, and actually an intended effect of the winemaking having somewhat to do with the lees, the sediment I was showing you on the bottom of on the glass, that smear of stuff I was seeing this morning in the rising sunlight. Actually, it's back to that. I get the hydrogen sulfide, but as I wave this around, here comes pear. Or actually, what is more mild as a fruit than a pear? How about quince? And let me just tell you, at your next wine tasting party, throw that word around, quince, because people will be impressed. and they will believe what you're saying, even if it's not the right application, because nobody knows what the hell a quince is or has had one. Actually, a few of you have. You wine nerds have. It's a fruit. It's a very, very hard, thick-skinned, apple-looking fruit, which you can make quince paste and quince jelly out of, but you do not want to eat a raw quince. It's not a bearable experience. But it has a fragrance. It's a delicate fruit fragrance, more delicate than pear. It's happening here. That's nice wine. Very nervy, refreshing. I want grilled shrimp right now. I'll have to wait a few hours. All right, per shrimp. Oh, this would work. We're gonna take you now to Ibiza. So this is the third wine in the white wine flight with that rather difficult to remove. There, I got it, glass cap. These things are a little weird. Some people are ranking them hibiscus, which is obviously a reference to the flower hibiscus. That's the name of the winery, and we have here a wine grown virtually on the seashore of the Mediterranean Sea on the island of Ibiza, better known for partygoers, and yet this one winery, it's the largest winery there, and even they are very small. There's only hundreds of cases made of this. This is mostly Malvasia. I think of orange peel and maybe orange blossom when I smell this. It's dry though, it's dry, it's a little briny. I think we get the Mediterranean having its say in the nose. I put it on a flight maybe 4 weeks ago, and I didn't see a lot of activity. I didn't see a lot of people saying, oh my God. And you know, what happens when we create a flight, when we assemble 4 wines, there's also always a wine that kind of loses, because in as much as we try very hard to get the sequence right, maybe it's the price, maybe it's just like the wine that came before was distracting from what you're having here. This is good stuff. It deserves another appearance at the wine bar, especially because I still have several cases. So let's give Hibiscus another try. Dry Malvasia from Ibiza. You can say Ibiza or whatever. That's Ibiza is the appropriate pronunciation. All right, now let's have white wine number 4. The final wine in the white wine flight is going to be what I call the best grape in the world, meaning Chenin Blanc, and the best place in the world to grow Chenin Blanc is the Loire Valley of France. And I was suggesting in the menu that you buy a bunch of soft cheese and take it home and disrobe, and do this privately. If you have a private area screened off from the peering eyes of your neighbors in your backyard, it's really fun to do this on the patio. But buy at least 7 or 8 wheels of very, very soft cheese from our cheese cooler and disrobe. And you'll need to open this bottle first and pour yourself a glass before you do all this, because your hands are going to be so, every part of your body will be. Like, I want you to smear cheese all over yourself, soft cheese. Warm it up so it's more smearable, and just smell yourself and smell this wine, and it'll be beautiful. Out there on the back patio, I recommend this experience. It's something I try to do at least once a week, and it's very therapeutic. It's beautiful, except for the neighbors. I'm kidding, but the whole stupid point about the soft cheese is this is a gorgeous Anjou. That means it came from Anjou. It's 100% Chenin Blanc, as I said, and it's going to be a wine that is dry but has a bit of body to it, because it is Chenin Blanc. It has certain lemon curd qualities, but it's dry. I always have to justify Chenin Blanc as, hey, this one's dry, okay? Because many of you are, not many anymore, I think we're getting over it, but a lot of you, actually most of you who are afraid of it have probably passed away by now. It was my grandmother's generation, let's say, where Chenin Blanc was mistreated as a jug wine, grown in the Central Valley, and it was usually pretty darn sweet. And now we know that Chenin is actually one of the greatest grapes in the world, if not the best grape in the world. When treated right and grown in the right place. And that happens invariably in the Loire Valley, in Vouvray, in Montlouis-sur-Loire, and in Savagnin, and so on, including Anjou. Anjou, I love saying that. And That's a nice dry white to finish off with a little more body and wonderful with smearable cheese. Don't forget that. Maintain that image in your head for the rest of your life. All right. You know what we're going to do is go to a red flight that takes you all over the world. But you know what? Maybe you don't want to be dragged all over the world. We know we have all kinds of different customers. And some of you come upstairs and say, can I have a cab, damn it? Well, here, damn it, is a Cabernet from Dunham, not Denham. I haven't yet found a wine with my name on it, but this is Dunham Cellars. I think Cellars, Dunham Cellars up in the Columbia Valley of Washington State. Very nice looking label. This recently went into the Red Collector Wine Club as a very, they always expect those members to see a nice Cabernet or a blend with Cabernet and Merlot and so on. And frequently those come from Napa, but we love to take people to Sonoma, sometimes Happy Canyon of Santa Barbara, and sometimes all the way up to Washington for the alternative, because we think out of the box, and so should you. You get more wines to try if you are open-minded. It's like great. Like, do you want to drink the same thing every night? I don't. Beautiful Cabernet, Dunham Cellars. What this strikes me as is romantically aromatic. It is beautiful in the nose, sexy, and yet I can already detect that this is going to be a dry wine, not sweetened up like a, let's just say a Caymus. This is more like real Cabernet, okay? Not souped up. Hasn't been spat out of an everlasting gobstopper making machine out of the Willy Wonka factory. It is, oh yeah. Proportional, balanced, flavorful. If I shut up, I can enjoy the length. I'm enjoying the length. Shut up. Very nice cab. Dunham Cellars cab. All right, so you can do that by the glass. It's not part of a flight. Sorry. Because, once again, the flight takes you everywhere else. On Monday, I went to a lunch in the city, and I sat directly across the table from Yves Colleran, who is a fantastic Northern Rhone wine producer. On Tuesday, we had an event where Angelino Sandri of Italy returned to represent 13 Italian wines and sing some Italian folk songs, surprisingly. It was beautiful. And on Wednesday, that would be yesterday, I returned to the city to sit right next to Juan Muga and enjoy beautiful wines from Bodegas Muga in Rioja. And gosh, I thought, I've been missing this. I still haven't gotten to go back to Europe and taste wines there and find wines for you there. But in the meantime, finally, Europe is coming to us. And not just Europe, but great wines from all over the place are now being represented by their actual human producers visiting us. And the invitations to the tastings have started up. So it's been a good week of internationalism. And we love that, you know. We like to try wines from all over the place. Again, keep your mind open. We got that cab for you, but we can, or and. It's not but, it's and. We can show you great wines from all over the place, including this. Wine number one on the flight is Domaine de Fafid. You probably have never heard of it. You've probably walked by it a million times. It's down there right next to Spain. Well, what's next to Spain? Portugal. But you guys have never had this wine before. You wouldn't know like whether or not it's any good. Let's get the damn thing on the wine bar menu, shall we? This is going to be made of Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, and Tinta Roriz. Those are all very traditional grapes in the Douro Valley of Portugal, where port is the most famous product, but now the dry wines of the area are catching up, and we are starting to drink and love dry wines from the Douro. And this is a good one that is priced at, I think, $17.99 for you wine club members, so the investment, the inquiry is not all that perilous, it's not all that expensive. Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, you could kind of think of that as the Cabernet Franc of the Douro Valley. And Tinta Roriz is, in fact, it has another name. You know it better as Tempranillo. Nice. Good food wine. That's what we want from Europe, right? We anticipate making a meal and enjoying a bottle like this. Good stuff. Domaine de Fafid. I got to go there. I had a pig snout or two there, believe me. It was okay. It was the texture was different. Have you ever eaten a pig's nose? Many parts are edible. And now let's take you to Priorat. By the way, we were just enjoying a region that is just laden's a nice word, shale. We've been saying slate, schist actually all these years. They're both metamorphic rocks. They're in the same family, so we were like partly right. And there is some slate there. But apparently, from what I was reading this morning, the Douro Valley of Portugal, it consists more of shale, which is a rock metamorphic that is, when you see it, it's like flat and broken. You can hold it in your hand and break it more easily than you can schist. That's one big difference. It's made of different stuff, but it's pressed. You know, that's metamorphic is stuff that's been compressed. Stuff that used to be otherwise in the past. Anyway, that's nice, isn't it? And nice is metamorphic rock too. There is some nice in Douro. But now we're going to go to the east side of the Iberian Peninsula and talk about slate, because no, we're not. Shit, sorry. We'll get to that in a minute. Côte Rhône, all right? Just very briefly, because we put this on the bar before, you all love it, so we have to have it again. This is Mas de Bois-la-Zone, Côte Rhône Village, made by a Châteauneuf-du-Pape producer. Everybody likes it. Done deal. Grenache based. Now to the land of slate, which is Priorat. Priorat, if you guys go to Barcelona and you want to do a little trip out to Cava country, that's easily done on a half-hour train ride, and you're, boom, drinking Cava. However, if you rent a car and drive for an hour and a half, you can see something really striking in a region called Priorat. I recommend that you hire a guide once you're there, if you don't know the region already. It's the best way to score some fantastic, very personal wine tasting experiences at different, very small wineries. Do the guide thing in Priorat. It's worth it. Several of our customers already have. This is going to be made of Grenache. You can say Garnacha, Carignan. You can say Carignana. A little Cab, a little Syrah. It went to our world-class wine club recently. We have some left over. I love this wine. I love the place. You gotta see Priorat. If you go to Barcelona, save yourself a day. It's a full day trip, but you'll be back in Barcelona in time for dinner. They eat late there, so, you know. You can taste the gorgeousness, the charmingness of Grenache, but you can also feel that slate. Not shale, slate in Priorat. Another metamorphic rock. All right, let's go now back to Ibiza, because I still have some of this beautiful wine. Not everybody understands it, but those who have had a wine called Bandol just might. Bandol, that's grown on the Mediterranean, south of France, made mostly and sometimes entirely of a grape called Mourvedre. This is all Mourvedre. They call it Monastrell because that's the Spanish name. This is a Spanish-owned island called Ibiza. 100% Monastrell, or Mourvedre if you will, that really respects the Bandol style. Dark, sturdy. I will put down 6 bottles of this and drink 1 bottle a year for the next 6 years, because it's got that. It's got, you know, if I did some push-ups right now, I would feel more Bandol-like. It pumps you up. This is for sturdy meals. Like think of very concentrated flavors that you could cook up. Stews, meats, rich meats, rich meals. From Ibiza comes Hibiscus, once again 100% Mourvedre, if you want to call it that. You can call it Mataro, you can call it Monastrell, you can call it shit. I call it really damn good and really interesting with a future ahead of it. It's not necessarily quite ready for prime time, but I'm identifying a wine here that is going to go long, and I want to witness its track. I want to be in on that. Now, big gear shift. Big gear shift. This is a big wine, but it's big wine in, you could say, sheep's clothing, because it is Barolo, made entirely of 100%, that's a redundancy. It's made entirely of Nebbiolo. Barolo has to be. We're going to Piemonte, Italy for our final wine. Barolo is never inexpensive, but we like to put kind of like a crowning achievement wine at the end of our flights. And let's just get that glass a little cleaner. Little rinsey poo. and try this brand new arrival, Caggiale Barolo. Barolo is like instantly right off the bat, $40 and up. This is in fact in the low 40s, but it reflects beautiful value per the pricey category. Barolo is sought for by so many people, and not because it's dark, because it isn't. Can you see what's going on there? It's almost like bricky orange. This is brand new wine. This is not old wine. And yet, Nebbiolo just simply does not achieve a deep color. But it lands in this glass, this fat glass, and you are meant to smell it. And hold off, and then come back. And swirl again. And nearly forget to drink it. Do that for 8 hours while you're making ossobuco, and then have this wine. The wine will be ready, the ossobuco will be ready, you will be ready, you'll be dying of thirst. Liquid elegance, discreetly profound. It's kind of fun to end a flight where the last wine was big and dark and loud with a nice way out. And that's the way I will fade. Happy birthday, Mary. Thank you, everyone, for everything you do here at The Wine Steward. Come see us soon. Have some Barolo with me, all right? See you.